From entertainment to e-commerce, from outdoor media to social media. The power of video content can't be underestimated, and its use is on the rise. The need by brands for the moving image has seen the rise of organisations that meet that demand, with creative filmmakers ready to pick up a camera.
Userfarm is a global crowd of filmmakers which was started a few years ago to provide brands with the opportunity to create content from the grassroots, globally, at scale and at remarkably low cost.
So what's wrong with all the traditional routes?
There's nothing necessarily wrong with the traditional route of production, but it does certain things very well, it does other things less well. The traditional route of production is more top-down. It can come sometimes from a bit of an ivory tower in Madison Avenue or West End London, and somebody sitting at a desk overlooking the Thames. It's hard to know these days what the person in Indonesia might think of the brand, the person in Spain, what do they think of the brand? These days, a brand is not what their advertising creatives tell the world it is, it's what consumers tell the world it is.
So how does it all work? How does a brief get a reaction from the crowd?
We get a brief from the brand, and we will translate that brief into a call to action for the crowd. Our crowd is composed of filmmakers, talented filmmakers around the world, right from amateurs who might be making their first film, up through film students, enthusiasts, right up to professional filmmakers who are nominated winning top awards. Many brands are using us to engage their own consumers in this, but always we're adding a bit of curation, so that you're getting that freshness, that grassroots interpretation, that wide consumer approach, multicultural, multi-territory if you need it, but also we always ensure that there are top quality filmmakers taking part in that project as well. So it's not just a bunch of guys running around with iPhones and getting random content back. You really get the best possible response from the technology which is out there and the people who are out there.
Who's doing this?
All sorts of brands are doing this at the moment. Any major company these days that is faced with the challenge of producing much more video has to find new ways of doing it. The traditional approach is expensive, it's cumbersome, it's very centralized, and it's very complex. Crowdsourcing is simple, it's much cheaper, you're getting a much greater variety and a much greater authenticity of response. Brands need that for social media. The stuff which is shareable, the stuff which has relevance, the stuff which captures people's imagination and goes viral, tends not to be the highly produced, glossy, expensive videos. It tends to be those videos that actually mean something to people, and those are the ones that come from them, from their friends, people who they can relate to, and it's material they can relate to.
What happens if you get somebody who comes up with a brilliant idea? What's stopping a brand from cherry-picking that idea but remaking it for themselves? How does the filmmaker themselves ensure they don't miss out?
Well, that's very central to what we do. I have to say that so far that's never happened with us, and if it did, we would certainly do something about it. If the client purchases the video, they purchase the concept in that video as well, so they would have the capability to develop that concept in other ways. In fact, sometimes we do have clients who will purchase a video and then reshoot it.
Give us an idea of some of the highlights in terms of what this crowd has produced.
Wow. We work, for instance, with Nespresso on a vertical film contest, 400 films from 40 countries in vertical format. Really not easy to do, of extraordinary high quality. With Tic Tac, 365 films we received from 27 countries. All amazing 15-second bursts of Tic Tac fun.
So tell me about the themes of how you think this sort of form of marketing is going to move forward.
What we see here is the crowd now is starting to drive marketing and drive ways of communicating. Vertical video, for instance. This is something which has been created by the crowd. People don't film in landscape, they film in vertical. Professionals look down upon this, but there are so many people doing it these days and watching video on their mobiles that guess what? This is now becoming an accepted art form, and that trend is driven by the crowd. Embracing the crowd allows you to be at the forefront of those innovations. So you're not just doing something which may be a cheaper version of what an agency might do. You are doing stuff which is really new and which brands need to embrace if they're going to be engaging people on their mobiles where they're watching vertically, content needs to be created for that context. And nobody does that better than the crowd.
Isn't this just going to be another flash in the pan and we're just going to return to advertising in a traditional sense?
We still believe that agencies have a vital role to play in working with brands and their brand strategy, and we believe agencies should be working with the crowd, taking charge of it. There are things we do that agencies cannot do. We can film in 140 countries tomorrow at the drop of a hat. We can do things at a much lower cost and with much greater range of creativity and ideas than an agency. And agencies, I think, should be able to see that they can take care of some of the stuff and work with us, or work with the crowd to produce the rest. I don't believe it's going away. In today's world, a client cannot justify spending $1 million on material just to go on social media. But with the crowd, he can be spending a fraction of that and get 50 films to develop his brand narrative in social media, not just one way, but in many different ways, from many different cultural approaches, from many different territories, which may not have budget for video traditionally. But with the crowd, they find they don't only have budget, but they have ways to do it and create video that's relevant for their consumers. So I don't think it's going to go away. I think it's going to grow. And we are increasingly seeing, this year particularly, many more agencies starting to call us up and saying, we have a client who wants to make a TV commercial which we're making. Can you help us make 50 films for social media to run alongside this? 5 for Pan-Asia, 5 for Europe, 10 for the Americas, and so on. The crowd can do that.
Still watching? Perfect. Click here to watch another great video from CNBC International. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for watching.